Gamers. I enjoy Dark Souls 3. Sure, I don't have 9,000 hours on it, but closing in on the 400 hour mark made me realize that I don't usually replay games this often. What can I say? I love it. It has its flaws, of course, but they're heavily outweighed by the great design, and I even bothered to complete the game, which I usually don't do. I'm not much of a completionist. So obviously, being a fan of Dark Souls, yes, even 2, I was very excited about the release of Elden Ring. However, I'm not a big fan of trains, specifically of the hype variety. So after the initial announcement trailer and one gameplay reveal, I stayed away from news regarding it. I didn't look at the gameplay from the network test either. That's just a me thing, don't look into it too much. I was expecting this new IP to just be another Dark Souls, and by my beard, I was wrong. Critics love this game, and there are people claiming it's the best video game of all time, so I'm here to ask the question, are they correct? Is this the most video of all games? Well, after completing this game, I think I'm ready to talk about it. Let's get into it. Elden Ring is a dark fantasy third-person action RPG. It features tight combat, exploration, and character building. The core gameplay of this game is very similar to Dark Souls, but refined. Dark Souls has always had issues with its combat, no matter how good they made it. In my opinion, Dark Souls 3 had the most satisfying combat of the franchise, and yet it still felt a bit weird. Almost every weapon had some quirk or a move that was essentially useless. Like the weapon arts, a lot of them just were bad, especially compared to just a standard weapon swing. Elden Ring has a ton of weapons, and yet they all feel great to use. I experimented with a fair number of builds, and they all felt great. There's a lot of different weapon arts, and they can be changed on normal weapons, making it easy to, well, fix a weapon with a skill you don't like. The addition of a dedicated jump button makes exploration easier for sure, but they also incorporated it in the combat. We get to see a bit of that Sekiro DNA right there. Not only can it be used to dodge certain moves, but it can also be used to attack, quickly closing gaps and dealing a fair amount of damage while you're at it. Strictly talking about combat, I think this is a good addition. It adds another dimension, literally, to the combat, and it just makes it richer, in my opinion. Parrying is this thing that's always felt a bit weird in previous games. Like, sure, it's incredibly powerful, but for anyone that's too casual to learn how to do it consistently, it's a trade-off that's just often not worth it. As a result, most people will just play the game barely parrying at all, and that's a shame. In Elden Ring, not only can you replace your shield's move with something other than a parry, as not to waste your precious skill on something you never use, but you can also do what's called a guard counter. That move is such a great addition, and I love it. Essentially, unlike a parry, where you must have a perfect timing during the attack to perform it, you block the hit as usual. Once you've blocked, you can hit the right trigger to perform the move. It's much easier to do than a parry, but it's also much easier to punish. I think it's a good balance. The window when you can actually perform the move might be a bit too wide. Right now it's very easy to perform, but overall I think it's a good addition. It makes using a shield much more enjoyable compared to previous games. There are even more quality of life changes. For example, while exploring outside of a dungeon, certain actions will refill your flasks, meaning you spend less time going back to the checkpoints and replenishing, and more time actually fighting and exploring. Another example, while you're not in combat, actions don't consume stamina, so you can just run forever and jump as many times as you like. That's magnificent. I love that. Thank you so much. Oh my god, please marry me. Don't actually marry me. I'm not financially stable, holy shit. Another example, dying to a boss is usually very frustrating. They've actually made a really good effort in this game to make the run back to a boss arena from a checkpoint way less annoying. So you spend less time just running from point A to point B and more time actually fighting a boss. That's great. Another one, it's easier than any previous game to actually change your character's stats and build. So experimenting with all of those options that they give you, it's actually much easier than before. Dark Souls 3 had this funny quirk where you could only respec 5 times per run even if you had the items to do it more times. So it was rather frustrating. Elden Ring does not have a cap like that. As long as you have the item, which are rather easy to obtain, then you can respec. Okay, that all seems great. Better movesets, better options, but won't that make the game too easy? Great question, demonic voice in my head. This question is a bit hard to answer, however, since difficulty is subjective. During my playthrough, I encountered what I can only describe as some of the hardest boss fights I've had to do in recent years. But I also encountered bosses that were sort of pushovers. Almost every single boss I fought felt fair and had a clear solution to it. The only thing that was preventing me from winning was either my poor performance or, well, actually that's it, that's my poor performance. There wasn't really any RNG, except for that one boss. Really, the game is balanced in a way where no matter what tools you have in your arsenal, pretty much every situation has a way out of. Of course, having a larger variety, like having some ranged weapons, will definitely help in this game. And I do mean it. Ranged weapons, either it's consumables or a bow or crossbow or some magic, it'll help. For sure. I found myself in plenty of situations where I just wasn't able to compose myself quick enough and died. Overall, the combat feels great. It's intuitive, yet deep, with clear rules and plenty of challenges to test you. It felt great to defeat major enemies most of the time. Some bosses have this very funny quirk where they'll attack you the second you enter the boss arena. It's not the most unfair mechanic, technically is avoidable, but it's a bit jarring to be almost immediately killed as soon as you pass a fog gate. Another boss from the late game has this move where, unless I started running away from her the moment she started it, she would have basically always killed me, no matter if I was full health or not. I defeated her eventually, the one time she didn't use that move on me, and then I looked online, and the only advice I could find was to run away and pray, essentially. Which is kind of awkward since I'm not much of a religious, so I mean, what would I pray to? Like some There's a number of tough bosses in this game, but that one just wasn't that fun, and I know in future playthroughs I'll just be probably avoiding her. Another annoyance I have is with the numerous status effects that you'll get. Look at these symbols. What the heck do they mean? Do they even matter? I don't know, and I never will. As some sort of modern social experiment, From Software still thinks it's funny to just have tiny vague symbols reflect your character's current status and nothing else. Oh, the status page. Nope. No word here on what those are. Alright then. Alright, let's change gear a bit, because I kind of forgot to mention that this game's open world now? Yeah, I didn't really see that coming. I mean, I knew it would be a bit more open from the gameplay trailer, but the map is huge. Now, I generally dislike open world games, but that's not because they're open worlds. It's because most open worlds are terrible, and they suck. It is a widely known fact that the only good open world game is Cyberpunk 2077, but I think we can add a second entry to this list. In all seriousness, Elden Ring has been compared a lot to Breath of the Wild, and for good reasons. I even voiced my opinion on it being similar to Breath of the Wild while I was talking with a friend on the day of release. I think the main reason why we see them compared so much is for those two reasons. Number one, they're both very well designed and beautiful worlds. Both games are just incredible visually, and they're worth exploring just for that alone. That's important for a game like this because personally, I don't want to explore a world that's disgusting to look at. But a lot of other games are pretty, so that can't be it, right? Right. The second reason is because the open world nature of the game serves a purpose and is well realized. Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild both have worlds that are worth exploring for the sake of exploration alone. Take this example. In Assassin's Creed, the open world is just a place where the developers can just dump a bunch of collectibles and side objectives for the player to do. The goal is not for the player to find these things to do, but rather take a checklist and spread it across the map, then proceed to tell the player where everything is after they've reached the tower. Not much of a reason to explore when you already know where everything is located in advance. Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild do things differently. In both games, you must do something in order to unlock the map for an area. Usually, it's easy to accomplish. Once you have the map, however, that's all you get. The map. You don't get the location of every single item on that map or every dungeon, just a topographical map. Nothing else. This lets the player know what traversing an area could be like without telling them right away where all the good stuff is. It allows the player to themselves plan out their exploration. The exploration in this case is genuine. The map is designed with exploration in mind, not with a checklist in mind. This is great, but it also makes exploration way slower if you have to find everything yourself, which is the one drawback of this system. It's easy to feel like you missed something, to feel like you should explore even more, and it can even become a bit frustrating at times. Breath of the Wild's approach to this is quite simple. Make one of the main collectibles you find Korok seeds, use those to upgrade your inventory, and you only need about half of the seeds in the game to max out your inventory. That way, if you miss out on a lot of them, that's fine, because you don't need all of them. They also make the main thing to find very hard to miss. I mean, the shrines glow orange, and they even give you a radar to find them. Frankly, it's kind of a good solution to that issue. Elden Ring solves that problem in a similar fashion. For example, you need a certain item to increase the amount of flasks that you can hold. Thankfully, there are more of that item available in the world than you need to max out your flasks, which means even if you miss some, you're still likely to find enough to max out your flasks. So yeah, sometimes the game made me feel like I was missing something. But as someone who's not a completionist, as ironic as that is after completing this game, I didn't really mind that much, and at some point I just kind of let go. And I probably missed some stuff, but who cares? One of the reasons why the open world is so good is because the rewards are worth it. Picture this, there's tons of weapons in this game, tons of armors, summons, arts of war. They're all mostly unique, and they're all spread around the world. Left and right, you find new armors, new weapons, new summons. And then when it's not that, well, it's upgrade materials to make your current weapons, your current summons, stronger. One of my gripes with RPGs is that eventually the loot you get just ends up as generic loot. In Skyrim, when you find another Elven Warhammer, it isn't exciting. It's just more future money after you sell it, and oof, you're overloaded, oh my. Elden Ring's loot is genuinely exciting. Brand new armor sets are just thrown at you like it's nothing, and they all look superb. I generally always reach a point in RPGs where the loot no longer excites me, but I've never really reached that point in Elden Ring. It's just absolutely brilliant. Elden Ring has a crafting system. A fucking crafting system. Holy shit, that's pretty good. With some of the ingredients being very common and others not so much, there's enough depth to it to make it passable in terms of crafting systems. The common ingredients are spread around the world and are quick to farm if you need many. The rarer ingredients, however, are marked as loot, which is great because they genuinely are rarer to find, so drawing your attention to those specific ingredients is great. That's a good time to mention that different colors of loot mean different rarity. White being common, purple is rare, and orange ones are very rare. This is also great, since there's so much loot in this game, it's easier to know what's actually important and what you could probably pass up on. So there's plenty of loot in this world, but what is the world actually like? Although this is an open world, it still retains some structure. The way FromSoft has done this is by changing the elevation of the terrain significantly. Enormous cliffsides are present throughout the lands between and serve as both decoration and roadblocks for your exploration. This is less open than traditional open worlds, but it also means that the experience is a bit more tailored than those. It still isn't anywhere close to being a linear world, however, so don't get me wrong, it is an open world. The result is an adventure where you don't often feel like you're going the wrong way, yet freedom is still given to you. Not that you can't go the wrong way. I was in this area once that was way above my level, but I decided to pick up a really good talisman and escape, and I felt like I kind of got away with something I wasn't supposed to. Combine this beautifully crafted world with clever enemy encounters and overworld bosses, and it all just feels coherent. Plenty of dungeons and catacombs can be found around the map. The earlier ones are so simple they almost scared me into thinking this game was made for babies, but they quickly became challenging gauntlets of enemies or puzzles to solve. These bite-sized dungeons are very fun, possibly one of my favorite parts of this game. Too bad for them though, because there's also big legacy dungeons in the game, and those are the best levels that FromSoft has ever made. At least since Dark Souls 1, I have never played Kingsfield. I'm not kidding. The major dungeons are so good. We're talking intricate level design that reminded me of Dark Souls 1 with shortcuts and intertwining paths. It's magnificent. The result is the best of both worlds scenario, where we get the good quality open world and the tight, intricately designed legacy dungeons. It has everything. So yeah, it's compared to Breath of the Wild a lot, but that's fine because both are great. And oh fuck! One small note, I wasn't sure where to put this. Like previous titles from this studio, there's NPCs that have quest lines, but unlike previous games, those quest lines are rather hard this time around. Usually, it's easy to find these characters throughout the world, but in the case of Elden Ring, I started some quest lines and then lost sight of those NPCs for the rest of the game. It's kind of a shame, and there's not really any tool in game to help you with any of this. So if you like doing quests, be ready to open the wiki up and look it up, because frankly, I don't know how it's possible. The online is fine. I'm not really interested in PvP that much, so I'm not going to comment on that. But the cooperation worked fine. No major issues there. I had some disconnects at the beginning, but after a few patches, I haven't really had that happen to me, so it's probably fixed. Yes. First things first, you have to find me.
Wait, where are you?
I can see you. You're very close to me. Okay, you're getting colder. You're getting very hot. Oh shit, you're so hot right now. Oh my god. A small detail that sort of annoyed me, you can't really play the entire game in co-op. Say you wish to summon your friend to explore. You can, but then none of you will be able to use the horse in the overworld. Add to that the fact that if you find a dungeon, neither of you will be able to enter it. The summon will have to leave the game, only for the host to summon them once more past the doorway. It works, but it's clunky for anything that isn't a dungeon. It's a bit sad, since one of my favorite things to do in Dark Souls 3 was to play the entire game with my friends, and although it is technically possible here, I would not recommend it. It's only going to be tedious and annoying. Another online element that is annoying, there are signs everywhere. Like, it's a bit dumb how many there are. If you know you won't summon anyone, you can actually play the game offline, which is a bit harder since sometimes signs are actually helpful, but most of the time they are not. So, yeah, pick your poison. Alright, it's time to talk about the graphics. This game has at least 10 graphics. Some people have reported at least 11. I've only seen 10, so 10 from me, maybe 11, unconfirmed. For real, this game looks good. It's not the most technically advanced game I've ever seen, but it managed so much with the tech it uses. It doesn't have any ray tracing or anything like that, but it looks good regardless. There's some popping here and there, but overall, it looks very good and nothing really breaks immersion. There are some issues, however, with such a demanding game. On PC, which is the platform I played it on, the game will stutter from time to time, and there isn't really anything you can do about it. Even the best computers right now have this issue. Hopefully this is something that can and will get fixed. It didn't happen to me too much on my end, but it did happen. Above the graphics talks though, I think in terms of artistry, this game is a masterpiece. The aesthetic design of the world is just creative and just joy to look at. I'm not spoiling later regions of the game, but there's some very gorgeous views later on that are hard to describe. The design of this game is just top notch. Everything is just pretty and over designed, I would say. Even the stuff we don't really think about. For example, I previously mentioned loot markers. The way the purple suddenly joins the white, it's just, they didn't have to make it this pretty because most people won't take such a close look at it. But I did, and it's marvelous. One of my favorites, the ingredients. There's a lot of flora in this game, so how do you determine what is an ingredient and what isn't? Well, generally ingredients have this warm, soft glow around them that signifies that you can pick them up. This logic is present throughout the entire game. Not only is it useful, but it's also very pretty, and it communicates perfectly to the player what can and cannot be picked up. The spells are flashy, and even the goddamn UI has this slight gold tint to it. Everything's just coherent and packaged nicely. I love it. It's just magnifique. The enemies are super well designed as well. A lot of them are super creative. They're just these grotesque malformed, like semi-human things. There's just the creativity on display is insane. The animations for every single enemy, from the tiny grunts to the final boss, are just done with so much character, and yet they still properly choreographed everything to be good for a video game. It just shows this mastery of enemy design that From Software has been cultivating over the years that they've been making these games. Okay, this is kind of hard to talk about. In typical From Software fashion, the story of this game is mostly hidden behind few and far between NPC dialogues and item descriptions. I think I get part of the story, but there is definitely a lot of pieces missing. Even with my mediocre understanding of the story, the game was a blast, so I would say not to take the story into account if you wish to play this game. If you want to get into the lore, there's usually a really big community surrounding the lore in these games, and it's a rabbit hole that you won't be leaving anytime soon. The music is appropriate. Most of the music is quiet and understated, letting you focus on the exploration. Some standout tracks are the boss musics, with their intense beats and liberal use of either percussions or strings and often choirs. They just feel so epic every time. The final boss's music, especially, goosebumps on that one. It doesn't have the impact that something like Gwyn's theme from Dark Souls 1 has, but it's quite epic and powerful regardless. Another track I really like is the Catacomb music. It's this uncanny, eerie music that keeps you on your toes and keeps the suspense up, even when nothing's happening. It creates this uneasy atmosphere anytime it comes up. Okay, so is Elden Ring the best game? I cannot answer that. There's no objective authority on the best game, but I can say that it has cemented itself as one of my favorite games. Easily. Not sure if it's my number one, however. Would have to replay Dark Souls 2 just to see if it gets dethroned. But the simple fact that I'm considering it is a testament to the quality of this work of art. This feels like a culmination of everything From Software has done in the past. The incredible level design we saw in Dark Souls 1, the verticality of Sekiro, the combat from Dark Souls 3, the length of Dark Souls 2, the performance of Bloodborne. It's all of this, but jacked up. And because of that, I cannot recommend this game enough. It's amazing. Thank you for watching. If you like this, maybe you'll like my previous review. It's on a very non-controversial game called Cyberpunk 2077. You might remember that earlier I alluded to its open world being one of the only good ones. That was called a joke. In actuality, it's okay. If you want to know more, just click on the video link in the middle of your screen. Thank you for watching and take care of yourself. You deserve it. You did good this year. You're strong and wise. I'm proud of you.